Hello, everyone.
Hi,
We are
Lorna.
back again with a fresh and brand new AI and real life episode. And this one is a special one. Why, Elisa?
Yes, thank you, Lena. So, we're talking about deepfakes, voice cloning tech, and some AI detectors today. And we prepared a special treat for you guys because we have a special speaker and our guest star today. And I'm just gonna let you judge by yourself. But Elena, if you want to give the disclaimer before or after, you're welcome to. We can do that after.
Let's not spoil it.
All right then. Okay, so here we go.
Hi, this is President Joe Biden. I am delighted to introduce our guest speaker, Sarah Barrington. Sarah is an AI research scientist, PhD student, in Professor Hani Farid's lab at UC Berkeley, with focus on generative AI, deep fakes, and synthetic media.
Here we go. Straight from President
thank,
Biden
thank you so
himself.
much, Mr.
Thank you
President.
so much, President Biden. So
Okay.
here goes the legal disclaimer now, right, Elena?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it wasn't President Joe Biden. It was kind of a deep fake and voice cloning of Mr. President. So he can kindly introduce our guest speaker, and it's just purely for educational purposes because guys, we're all here just trying to educate and spread the word.
Right, but it was just to demonstrate how good voice cloning tech has become. And I let Sarah maybe introduce herself a little bit more, although I guess President's introduction was really great. But yeah,
You can top that.
yeah, thank
Yeah,
you, Joe.
thank you. I know, so good of Joe to tune in to this. Yeah, hi. Thank you so much for having me. It's such a pleasure to be here. I'm really excited for the discussion today. I know we've talked a little bit about how our two worlds overlap in this. I spend my time researching AI, the harms associated with AI, and in particular, deep fakes and voice clones. And I know that you're both super interested in what the legal world looks like around these things, which is very much where my expertise stops. So I think we're going to have some really exciting discussions about those two worlds today.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I hope so. I don't know much about voice cloning tech or what goes on in the background, and I'm really hoping to learn a lot today. And I think we have a lot of people who will be tuning in as well. And I just wanted to let our audiences know, if you guys have any questions, please comment in the real life, post your questions, and we'll try to kind of address them as they come, because we try to keep this discussion more casual as opposed to lecturing
Hi,
everybody.
this is President Joe Biden.
Oh, Joe, wow, he got so excited.
He can't stop.
Yeah, so I just wanted to let everyone know again. Yeah, he can, yeah, so that we won't be discussing any apocalyptic scenarios, anything like that, when AI is eating the world. It's just we just try to anchor ourselves around real life implications of in AI systems and technologies. And just to set the stage, these are going to be our main three subtopics for the discussion today. If we have time, we'll get to the AI content detection briefly. If not, then we'll save it for another time. And yeah, I think at first we just wanted to quickly um, kind of talk about the legal landscape for deepfakes, because legislation has been there for quite some time, and we're not going to delve super deep into those. I just wanted to let folks know that we have um, certain laws that have been there for some time that actually address different aspects of deepfakes. Starting in 2019, that charges Department of Homeland Security to report on the digital content forgery technology that includes both artificial intelligence and machine learning, kind of the more narrow subset of that. And there was another law in 2020 that uh, asks the National Science Foundation to research deepfake technologies, and also places some responsibilities on NIST, the National Institute of Standards and Technology. Actually, NIST has been very active in the AI domain. And so basically, we also have something that's called No Fakes Act, and that one hasn't become law yet. So that's the bipartisan initiative that's actually sitting in Congress right now, and that's centered around likeness laws, where basically you have to ask somebody's permission if you want to use their images, their voice, their sound alikes, their digital look, anything that's connected to their work in that domain. And not just that, but it also introduces damages, right? So if someone violates one of those rights, you can claim damages. There are certain exceptions as well, as we know from constitutional law classes, First Amendment, free speech considerations, and also some for the commercials, documentaries or parodies for comedy purposes. So, but this one hasn't become law yet. And oftentimes how it happens in the United States, in the absence of regulations, people would go to court and try to resolve it based on whatever, case law and statutory law we have. So this is one of the recent ones. And if there are any George Carlin aficionados there, you guys might have seen this one already. But basically what happened, some comedy podcast, they're called Dudesy. They took Carlin's likeness, his materials, his work, his videos. They trained their system on all of that material, and then they produced an hour-long show with the digital replica of George Carlin, named it "I'm Glad I'm Dead," and it just basically imitates Carlin very well. We cannot see this video anymore because it was taken down because the comedy podcast was promptly sued by George Carlin's estate and claiming copyright infringement, violation of right of publicity, and also asking for damages. So yeah, stuff is happening in the legal domain around deepfakes, but it's still a very developing world, I guess. But we're gonna follow this one and see what happens to good old George Carlin, because I like the guy. So yeah, and and I think with that, just that might be a segue into the voice cloning section of our talk today, because obviously when you're creating a digital replica of somebody, if you add very realistic voice on top of that kind of almost completes the entire picture, right? So I guess I talked a lot, so I guess I'll pass the baton to Sarah. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, it's absolutely fascinating to see that deep fakes, but in particular the voice deep fakes, are making it out into the world and having real world implications. I think it's very common for us to think as technology users that these deep fakes are kind of a novelty and they're a little bit of fun and they're something we could mess around with. But now we are seeing real world, really serious consequences of them. And I'll just give you a little overview of kind of how I think about this world. So as we already mentioned, I'm a PhD researcher in this space. So I'm thinking about, on a day-to-day basis, what are the threats that are coming from AI technology, in particular with regards to synthetic media, deepfakes, voice clones. And I'm also thinking about what are the specific problems they're causing. And there's a few different categories of those problems that I want to really highlight for you right now. So the first one of those is disinformation. So we talked a little bit about this when we've spoken before, but if you are living in a world where you can create something that looks convincing and or sounds convincing, this is effectively disinformation on steroids. So we're now able to, we exist in a world where seeing is no longer believing and hearing is no longer believing. So we are able to create a narrative and push that into the world. And if we have enough resources, we can genuinely tip the needle of a democratic process. So we're seeing misinformation happening, okay? It might be a good time to go to an example of this, actually. Should we talk about the robocalls?
Sure. That's a very hot topic, and I think FTC is on top of that. Our executive agency. We love FTC.
Yeah, there is legislation happening in response to this in real time, which is amazing to see. So for those of you who maybe didn't see this, in the headlines about a month ago, there was a case of a set of calls that went out before the New Hampshire primary in America to a group of Democratic voters. Now, the estimates are somewhere between 5,000 and 20,000 people received these calls. And on the end of the phone, automated message, but it's President Joe Biden's voice. And it's actually the same President Joe Biden that we just heard from, fake version. And this went out to thousands of people. And in that, I'll actually play you a clip now. I think I have it up. In that, he is effectively telling people not to vote in, what is a very important democratic process. Let me see if I can.
Yes, please. Would love to hear that.
Let's do it.
To me, it's amazingly well done.
Yeah, and there's a few reasons why it's so effective, and we can talk about those as well.
Sure.
If I can share. Okay, so hopefully you can see this. Wonderful. I'll play the clip for you now. It should come through the audio, but Alyssa and Elena, give me a wave if it's not, yeah?
It's important that you save your vote for the November election. Voting this Tuesday only enables the Republicans in their quest to elect Donald Trump again.
Okay, so the reason.
Okay, or that.
We lost Sarah. She will log back in. I'm just wondering what is going on. Yeah, Sarah was not a deepfake. She is real, guys. So that if you were wondering,
Is she? Are we even here
we turned her off. Well, she told us that's the glasses test, right? So you put the glasses. If there is a reflection in your glasses that you're, I guess the AI hasn't figured out how to deal with that yet. So this is the proof that we are the real persons here.
Are we taking the glasses off?
Sorry, what a wonderful time to get cut off.
It's okay. We were rocking our glasses.
Yeah. Just to talk about that audio. So hopefully it came through pretty clearly. You can hear that okay. So this is a really good example of where we see audio being more powerful than visual in a way, because often audio is targeted. So it's coming through a phone, which is a very personal way of receiving information, okay, which is very different to seeing a viral video online where you're like, oh, thousands of people have seen this, I can interrogate it a little bit more. So that's part one. Part two is by pushing it through a phone, the quality is already compromised. So you're not hearing, a super high fidelity version of this audio. You're already hearing it going through a phone, which degrades it slightly, and it really compromises our ability to critique a piece of content and understand if it's real. So to come back to the situation, what happened here is this deepfake went out to thousands of people and it meddled with the democratic process. It directly told them, as you heard in the clip, not to vote, to save your vote. And it also it was written in a way that sounded like Biden. And I think yesterday it came out that this has been traced back to Steve Kramer, who is a political consultant who deliberately sabotaged the campaign. So you can see how, actually, sorry, side note, I also read, I think it was, who broke this? Was it the New York Times? I'm not sure, don't fact check me on that, but it was a magician who was paid $150 to create that fake and then give it to Steve Kramer, who then deployed it as part of this.
I mean, can it get any better? Seriously. It's too good to be
this magician's like coming forward in the news being like, I'm so sorry, I didn't realize how it's going to be used. And he only got paid $150. Like, anyhow, another thing I want to highlight with this audio, though, is the ease at which you can create it. So our boy, the magician, got paid $150. That's probably a little bit much for what was about 30 seconds of work. Let me walk you through the process of how you would create this voice clone fake. Okay. So this was created on a platform called 11 Labs, which I think people may be familiar with. It's becoming quite a big name in the media. They are now a unicorn. They're valued at 1.1 billion. They're a huge company in terms of scale and reach, but very small in terms of the fact they're still a startup. And they are one of many providers of voice cloning technology. They just happen to be the leaders, and I think they're widely regarded as the best. So you go to 11labs.com or you go to the app, which will cost you $5. Okay, so $5 for a personal account with them. You can get a business account as well, but to get the basic functionality, you are paying $5. You go there, it will ask you to upload clips of a speaker, someone that you want to clone their voice. Okay, so for me, if I wanted to make this Biden fake, I would go to YouTube, type in President Biden's speech 2023, let's say President Biden State of the Union 2023, President Biden interview, whatever it is, right? I download a couple of clips, maximum 10 minutes. I don't even need that much. And then I feed those clips into 11 Labs. And then there's a little box that will show us, what do you want this voice to say? Like, what's the script that you want it to do? So I can type in anything there. And, you know, until a few weeks ago, that could have been literally anything. That could have been a racial slur. That could have been slander. It could have been simulating a scandal. It could have been anything, right? I think they are implementing some more guardrails, but let's just assume it can be anything. And then I click generate, and then out pops the audio that we want. And the three of us did this live on the phone yesterday when we created that introductory Joe Biden audio. So it's incredibly quick. It's devastatingly simple. And we've seen now how it can be deployed at scale to just be sent out to thousands of people. So this to me is like, we are no longer in the realm of this is a little novelty. We are seeing these things are real and they are here to stay. Let me pause there. Are there any questions?
No, I just wanted to say $5 seems like a good bang for your buck for something like this. I also
This is not an endorsement, guys.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying in terms of, like, to Sarah's point, how available this is, and how I like how you put this, devastatingly simple. You know, there are others. I'm aware of another tool like that. It's called Speechify.
Yep.
I think this one is I think this one is free. So I actually watched the demonstration. I think I was in your Professor Fareed, one of the webinars when they actually demonstrated, one of the law professors along with a federal judge, they were discussing and they demonstrated this in real life, how the tool cloned the professor's voice to actually say some nasty things about the judge, right? So yeah. Oh, somebody says my student cloned me using 11 Labs. Well, you must be popular, Andres. If your students love you so much, they want to replicate you indefinitely.
Yeah, I love that.
He's very popular. He's actually a reader in intellectual property, and is a very talented legal mind. Look at me, how I'm just doing some weird stuff. Anyway, I was just gonna say, when you mentioned kind of you can put any text in there, the 11 Labs, and essentially it's gonna spit out whatever you want. And then you mentioned the guardrail, so that was my kind of, that's why I opened my mouth, that I closed it, because I was like, literally, like, how, until what moment, or what was that, the Biden call that kind of,
that was a wake-up call.
All the news media cycle like started all that, and people started scrambling for some guardrails. Oh my God, we need to do something about it.
Yeah,
let's just put some filters on that thing, you know, because it's funny. What's funny to me, it's like we are a year and change in this thing, right? Every month there's a different application and stuff, and just our minds are constant overload of just new applications, new deepfake news, new voice cloning stuff.
Yeah.
So nobody even, I mean, where's the fun in that, I guess, but nobody even tries to just put some, again, the guardrails. It's not even a useful word for that, but just, you know, something. So the output is not whatever anyone kind of wants, you know, and it's not even it's open to everyone. Yeah, $5, but anyone, and like you said, Sarah, right? It's devastatingly simple. My 10-year-old probably could clone my voice or whoever voice she wants, right? And do whatever things she wants with it. But I'm just saying the barrier to entry is so low without any guardrails or anything, pretty much, until something explodes. Like Taylor Swift news, right? Now, George Carlin situation. It's like we're always waiting for this something big to happen for people to start thinking.
Yeah.
even that lasts for like a few days, right? Because the next news is on the way and people have already forgotten about it until someone else, pays $25 million to scammers while on the phone call with deepfakes of his supposedly CEO and stuff. So, I mean,
Right. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't have any other questions. It's just that I guess we wanted to mention that kind of what President Biden's call, I guess, was the wake up call, so to speak. So yeah, FTC came back promptly, and
FCC. Can I just correct you for there? It's
Yeah.
FCC, Federal Communications Commission.
Yeah. Yeah, federal, no, FTC, not FCC. FCC, Federal Communications Commission.
It was FCC.
Yes. If we're talking about the robocalls ban,
robocalls,
beginning of February,
yeah. And I think they're also, did they offer the prize? Sarah, maybe you can tell us a little bit about that as well. So there was a prize to the researchers, right?
Yeah, so one of the FCs, was it the FTC for the voice cloning challenge?
I think it was the FTC, right?
Yes.
Okay. FTC, no, so they launched at the end of 2023, they launched a voice cloning detection challenge, which was a national public competition for building detection methods for effectively detecting voice clones. And I do not believe, I'll have to check this, but I do not believe the winners have been announced yet. But I do know that they were in the process of shortlisting at least.
Yeah.
So a couple of things on this. First thing I want to say is, where is Taylor Swift right now in this discussion? Like, I mean, this is a personal take, but I think something really important happened with her experiencing this deepfake frenzy in the way that she did. It was nothing to do with her. It was completely awful, brutal that these images were circulating. And this is images, by the way, not voice cloning. Maybe there was an opportunity to speak up on behalf of the literal thousands of women who experience non-consensual deepfake porn and revenge porn every day. But we've yet to see that. I know she's busy, but I think that would have been a really important discussion to start, given the momentum that was behind this, the fact that we had eyes drawn to a problem that is incredibly severe and doesn't get enough attention, and we could have done something with it. So that's just point one, complete tangent to this discussion. Point two is on the, what do we do about this now? So the detection side of things, which we're starting to talk about a little bit. The FTC started this competition because they know there needs to be technical solutions to this issue of voice cloning. And we have seen the FCC swoop in and create this regulation where now AI-generated voice clones are illegal, like the robocalls are illegal. So that's great. And I assume that was a direct response to what we saw in New Hampshire. For this, it's not going to be just like a technical solution solves all or a regulatory solution solves all, which is why I'm so excited that it's the three of us in this virtual room. I work on the technical side of detection, and what I can tell you is it's getting harder and harder every day. So although we have some, and to bring it back to guardrails, we do have some guardrails in place, such as 11 Labs, this leader that I keep talking about. I think it is, I'm pretty sure this is complete fact that they implement a watermark. I'll have to check, but it's generally considered they implement a watermark, which is effectively like an invisible artifact that you can put into your audio or into your deepfake image or whatever it is that tells future users that it was generated by an AI. Okay, so that's step one. Step two is, okay, well, we're not always able to do that, or lots of providers don't do that. So that's where I come in. I build a lab, I guess, builds detection algorithms to try and differentiate from what's real and what's created by an AI. In previous versions of my work, it was enough to have human perceptual features. And what we mean by this is you can listen to a fake and a real. In fact, I think I have a fake and a real Biden up with the same set of slides. Let me play that. But you can listen to a fake and a real version of the same voice, and you can hear differences. Okay, so I will play them, and then we will talk about what those differences are. Bear with me.
Just don't log out after you're done playing.
Yeah, I'm just sick of it. I'm just done. I'll just leave.
Don't leave us.
No.
We still have 30 minutes.
Audio is shared. Yeah, sorry, my Chrome kicked me out. So we have a real and a fake Biden here. I'll play you the real one. This is State of the Union 2023.
55 of the largest corporations in America, the Fortune 500, made $40 billion in profits and paid zero in federal taxes?
Okay, and then on to the fake.
55 of the largest corporations in America, the Fortune 500, made $40 billion in profits and paid zero in federal taxes?
You heard that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah,
You can-
we
you
could
can tell.
definitely hear the difference. Yeah.
I think Biden is actually a really good example of where you still can just about hear differences. Now, I have to say with the robocalls, it's different because you don't have that side-by-side comparison. And that makes it quite easy when you've got the side-by-side. More like Joe Biden. But when you have them side by side, there's certain things you can listen out for. He stumbles in his sentence a little bit in the first clip that we heard. He does emphasize parts of the sentence in a very human way. And I think the fake Biden, the model, actually captures that really well. It is asking a rhetorical question and it goes up at the end and it emphasizes $0 in taxes. You know, it does these very human things, but it doesn't get things like stuttering. So anyway, in previous versions of my work, we built models that would listen to these audios and basically tell us differences that we could look out for. And actually, I will share again, I think this is important to see and interesting to see as well, is what it looks like to a computer when you feed in these two types of audio, the real Biden, let's say, and the fake one. So you feed into one of my models or a computer that audio, and it comes out as a bunch of numbers that you can then plot. And this is effectively a sound wave, okay? We might all be familiar with sound waves just from like, I don't know, looking on Spotify, whatever it is. We know that effectively the peaks are where we're louder and where we're saying a word or we're emphasizing a syllable. And then the flat bits are the parts where we're quiet. So these are kind of like the pauses between the words. And for this is a real sentence, okay, where you can see there's certain words being said, they're emphasized, whatever. You could think of this as the real Joe type sentence. And then when you feed in the exact same sentence of the voice clone version of that person as the second sound wave, so the fake one on the bottom, what you see is actually quite different. And I look at these all the time, every day. So I'm used to seeing, I'm like, wow, that's very different. But I think even to the layperson, you can see there are some differences in these waveforms. And what this translates to is his cadence. So the speaker cadence is actually, although it's not that clear to a human, the speaker cadence is different for a fake model of your voice. And this is something that's not captured by a voice clone that can map very well to how you speak, but it can't capture the way that you emphasize things and your intonation and blah, blah, blah. Although I have to say, disclaimer, they are getting better every day. But with the fake one, what you're seeing is overall, you have these patches where the model is louder, consistently more loud, and also there's just less pauses between words. And I think this is really still obvious in the case of Joe Biden, because he does speak, you know, often now when we see him on TV, he's speaking in a speech or it's an interview. And generally the cadence is slower than perhaps if he was talking casually or in conversation. Okay, so you are able to see these differences. And another reason why we might see that it's louder when it's the fake voice is because humans, when they're talking into a microphone, this was my mic, my body is naturally moving, my lips are moving, my head's moving away from the mic. A fake model doesn't know that. A fake model is like, I'm just talking into the mic, this is my volume, you know? So these are very subtle things you can look out for that certainly help, but don't solve the problem, because the bad news is these things outdate very quickly. And now if you feed in the latest 11 labs generated Biden, although, side note, I believe they've removed the ability to clone political leaders from their platform. That's a recent development. But if I feed in the new fake version of Biden from 11 labs, the latest I've got, this is far less pronounced. It's sounding more and more like him as their models get better. So it's this constant arms race of developing methods that are interpretable, trying to tell the public what to look out for, and then when you've done that already, a new models come out and those things are outdated. So this is the struggle that I experience every day in my job. And then I will just say a final thing on this, sorry, is that this is part of the story. There's also another part of the story where we use very complex deep learning algorithms to tell us the differences, and they work quite well in the lab, but they can't explain to you how they work. They're very black box. So although they can pick up on some very subtle differences in real and fake Joe, they're not able to say, oh yeah, listen for pauses or listen for volume. So anyway, sorry.
Yeah, there is no visibility. That's a problem, I think, with machine learning, is that, as you said, black box. You don't really see how, the machine came to that particular conclusion. So it's pretty much, you just have to trust the output, but you cannot see that, the chain of reasoning or, behind that. So this is, thank you. This is great. I'm just thinking out loud now because I'm so into music, and I love music I play, and I'm just thinking out about all the, singers and everybody who is in this business, and to me that could be a disastrous result for people who are in the music business, because let's call Madonna,
Yeah, but there
or anybody else. It's just insane. And I'm just wondering, as you said, I think that many platforms these days, they actually offer, along with AI systems and tools that produce AI generated content, they also offering their own AI detectors. So I'm just wondering if this voice cloning platforms, they also have something like, you just said, they now implementing guardrails, and sort of like you cannot probably use any prompt you like in terms of have the model to generate the voice. But I just wonder if they also offer some of those tools to help you detect, just kind of from the other side, right?
Can I just quickly pivot to 11 Labs situation? And Sarah, you mentioned that as far as you know, they currently they don't allow people to use to clone voices of politicians, right? So if that's the case, if I'm not allowed to use Biden's real voice, can I just train it on synthetic Biden and that's it, right? It's not his real voice. I already have like loads, and I keep, it's like, it's never ending cycle. I'll keep reproducing synthetic Biden's voice with new synthetic Biden's voice, and that's it. It's not really his voice. It's just, a deep fake version of him.
So this is one way that I thought about circumventing the guardrails. I haven't played, I think this is a recent development, and I'm really skeptical to put anything completely factual to this because I haven't played around with it and I haven't checked when this came into effect. But this is what I've been told. And I'm also being made aware that there's the concept of capturing consent via, for example, not just saying we're going to remove fake Biden from the platform, but when I go to clone like one of your voices, it will say, do you have the consent of this person? It's done this since the start. What I do as a bad actor is I say yes. But now that's become harder because what they'll do is say, okay, now what I want you to do is read out a specific script. And then you're like, oh, damn, okay. But this is exactly your point, Elena. Use the fake version. But the conclusion, having thought about doing this as an experiment and thinking it'd be really fun to prove, my hypothesis is that right now the best fake versions on the market are also created by 11 Labs, at which point you can 11 Labs have their own detector to detect audios created by them, most likely using their watermark. So it's a pretty, it's a good detection method. At which point you would just say, okay, you've uploaded a fake audio, so no. So that gets rid of the idea of it being a fake, and it gets rid of the idea of it being an identity attack. Could you, in theory, input a fake created elsewhere? Yeah. My view of this as someone working in the space is that if the company is doing a good enough job of creating these models, and the models are good, then they will already be big enough to have implemented the guardrails. Like, you can't get away with not putting the guardrails in. So you are probably going to be working with open source models that are pretty poor, at which point you'll feed it in and it just won't sound like him, especially after you've cloned it. So although you could get around it, I'm not convinced it's worth the extra effort. I think you could actually have a lot of impact with cheap fakes. Like, you don't need to be.
I mean, not everybody is so discerning, right? Some people, the bar is low, actually.
Exactly.
Not everybody is critical thinking. It's like, okay, let me questioning everything. Where are my sources? I'll just. In fact, a lot of people, they don't really care. You know, they heard it once somewhere on the phone. It's like, that's a phone call, and I'm on the subway on my way to work, right? And there's this there are different sounds. Sometimes we have that with our phones, right? So why would I, in that situation, won't take it at face value, right? My, I don't know, long lost brother, which I don't have, is calling me like, oh my God, I was taken hostage. I need $50,000.
Yeah, we need to talk about the fraud side of this as well. So I've been focusing on democracy stuff recently, but the fraud side, as you're bringing up, is probably where we're seeing some of the biggest damages, actually. So to bring up two examples that I know you both already mentioned, the employee, we were talking about this just beforehand, the employee who last month in Hong Kong transferred $25 million to who they thought was the CEO. It was actually a voice clone of the CEO. $25 million. You can't believe that went through. So this is one way we're seeing fraud, is that employees are getting a call or a message that's saying, it's the CEO, it's a voice clone, I need you to transfer this money. So that's one. And then we're seeing it targeting everyday people. Really popular scam at the moment that's really cruel is replicating, as you say, like your brother's voice or your mum's voice or your daughter's voice, calling you and saying, I've been in an accident and I need help right now. It's a crisis. I need money for lawyer fees, or I need medical fees, which, by the way, coming from the UK, I find this quite an alien concept, because there's not so much of a kind of like financial discussion around healthcare. It's like, okay, call the ambulance, like, you know. But in the US, it's very different in that, you know, it is feasible that your relative could be in a crisis calling you and saying, I genuinely need financial help right now. The cruelest thing about this scam is that it elicits an emotional response in people, because A, it's putting pressure on by saying, like, I'm in trouble, and B, it's the voice of someone you know in distress. It's horrible. It's not the time. It's absolutely not the time to be like, oh, is this really you though? I'm gonna hang up. You know, this is like,
oh, well, what's our code word? You know,
you're thinking, oh my God, I've got to act quick. By the way, the I think it's the FCC or one of the regulating bodies put advice out saying you need to, if you're in any doubt in one of these situations, hang up the phone and manually call back, which I think it's you know, it's a quick action that could save you a huge headache, because it is worth checking these things. And this scam is real. Like, I now, even in my own sphere, I know people, friends of friends or relatives of friends who've been targeted by this. So yeah, fraud is a very big concern for this, definitely.
Yeah, and I've heard those stories as well, and this is exactly the piece of advice that I heard over and over again, that you know, if somebody calls you from an unknown phone and sounds like your relative, I mean, those things happen sometimes. You like forgot your phone, you ask like a you know, stranger or somebody, you know, can I please use your phone because I need you to contact my family or something like that. So yeah, in that scenario, I mean, if you have any doubts, if there is some sort of weird gut feeling that's going on there, just call them back. And yeah, and I'm thinking, like, as a parent, I'm thinking about children's safety as well, because with deepfakes and voice cloning, we're seeing when you can replicate somebody's likeness. Some kids are already doing that in a very cruel way, as Sarah, you said, for bullying and for just this is with all the good stuff that this tech can do. Right now, people, younger people, also using that, unfortunately, for some really bad purposes, and knowing how vulnerable children are and teenagers are to those things. It could have a really devastating effect, because it's already happening in high schools, right? When some peers just using their friends or frenemies images in all kinds of bad ways. I think the education should be happening also for our younger crowds. But it's really, and also on the school, in the school district systems and things like that. I think they're aware. It's just that the availability of these tools right now is such as anyone can grab that and use in nefarious ways. So
Can I quickly say something about the watermarks? So Sarah, in the absence of questions, shame on you, everyone who's watching.
Audience,
I have a lot of questions.
Yeah.
So the watermarks, right, that you mentioned, they both can be applied in images as well, deepfakes, images, videos, and voice cloning, right? But that's kind of not a panacea, right? It can be, the watermarks can be removed essentially by manipulating the image, copying or whatnot. So can you please elaborate on that? How does the watermark look in voice cloning situation? How do you hear or see it? How can you tell if it's kind of authentic?
It's difficult for me to comment on exactly what different companies are doing, and I'd be very hesitant to do that. But the way we typically think about it is you could have, I guess, an explicit or an implicit one. So an explicit watermark would be at the start of an audio, kind of like a producer tag.
Like a disclaimer? This is the real audio?
No, it's like created by 11 Labs. And then you go into the audio. It's kind of like, whatever. So it's like it's almost like a producer tag. And this is dumb because obviously you can just crop that straight out. But it's, you know what? I actually don't know who uses that anymore. But I support anything that's a step in the right direction. So there's that. And then you have, I would imagine what companies are doing would be more implicit ones, which is where you can embed certain patterns of noise into an audio, or certain patterns of, I guess, different things about the signal. So on the waveform that you saw, that I showed you, it's kind of like a series of peaks and troughs, but actually they're a little bit jaggedy because it's not like a perfect smooth curve. There's always going to be background noise and artifacts. And I think what an implicit watermark would do would be to create it so those little tiny jittery bits around the peaks and troughs have a certain pattern, or at least that's me oversimplifying it a lot. But I hope that demonstrates the concept. You can kind of inject a certain pattern of noise or a certain signal into the sound wave that a human would never pick up. And then, but to a machine, you'd be like, oh yeah, I can see it. Like, that's very clear to me. So that would be an implicit watermark. And then for images, it's quite similar to that. You would embed a sort of a certain pattern of noise, or you could have something that's literally like branded over the top, like what you see is Shutterstock, something like that. Let's see what you've got.
Does it sound right? Yeah, I had my little slide prepared because I was like researching different definitions of watermarks, and because we're all familiar with watermarks in like Word processor contents, right? So it's like a visible thing that's like slapped on your document, like draft, confidential, don't touch this. So this is a more like I think general understanding of what that thing is, and as you're describing in the audio, some sort of like a special signal that not necessarily visible to the user, to a layperson like me, but it will be detected by a special some program or some another special tool. I don't know if that's represents more or less correctly what we're describing as a watermark.
Yeah, I think it does. And then there is a question around So I do want to bring it back to music as well. So I think the big things we're seeing here, the big like nefarious uses or just general use cases of voice cloning are the misinformation, deepfake stuff, the fraud, and then we're seeing this music stuff as well. And then we are seeing like bullying, deepfake porn, all of that kind of thing as well. But just focusing on the top three, the music one is really, really big. And we are seeing how this is already happening. And I want to bring Bad Bunny into this for a second. So
let me stop. Yeah.
No. And then we loop back to why these watermarks don't work for music. So it's important. Bad Bunny, I think it was middle of last year. There is, and this is an op-ed I've been writing with my colleague Marissa from the Berkeley AI Research Institute. She is wonderful and came across this effectively fake version of a Bad Bunny song on TikTok. And a couple of things here, because Bad Bunny is, I guess, a Latina artist, like he's in countries that are not speaking English so much. And a lot of deepfake research and AI research focuses on the English language, especially with voice cloning. So this ended up on Spanish-speaking TikToks. It's already kind of fallen by the wayside in terms of American policymaking. And it's a song that was created by someone, I can't remember his name, Senpai Mori or something, who has an AI alter ego, Flow GPT, who creates songs, rips off artists' voices, and then creates songs with them. So this song was entirely AI written and used Justin Bieber, Daddy Yankee, and Bad Bunny's voices in it. And then like ChatGPT wrote the lyrics, and then this guy put it online, and it ended up going like super viral on TikTok, and even reaching the Spotify charts in certain countries, and it's pretty cool. I'll have to post a link to the piece when it's done.
And people were under impression genuinely that this was the collaboration between these three artists.
Yes,
it was not put up as like, oh, look at this cool AI generated thing that we did, and it still tops the charts. And then we have all kinds of other problems that might arise from that, but people were completely in the they did not understand that was not an original content by these artists.
Couple of problems with this, right? One, watermarks, etc., aren't going to work here because you are putting it against music. This is the problem with audio. Whenever you experience audio, the voice is distorted in some way. The voice is put through a phone, or the voice is against a backdrop of music. So you can't be running these advanced detection patterns because you have all of this other stuff going on. So that makes it really hard. And the second thing that I really want to get both of your opinions on is what you can do about this legally. So we talked about this with George Carlin, but this guy is putting, I think the problem I had with this guy is putting this song out there under the actual name of Bad Bunny. Yeah. So it's not saying, so it was clear that it was AI generated if you dig into it, and the artist is listed as Flow GPT, fine. But it's using Bad Bunny's name. So is that like and I'm terrible at law stuff, but is that like a defamation? Or how does this work?
Well, I mean, there are all kinds of copyright violations there, I think, and, music publishing rights and things like that. So, and also, I think it's also Elena, I don't know, I'm not an expert at all in the consumer protection, but it also might be deceiving.
Neither am I.
It might be deceiving the consumers. It's like, it's you're selling a product or a service that you're purporting something it is that is actually not. So,
but again, coming back to our beloved FTC, right? So only recently they were like, we will not allow you guys to create synthetic or just deepfake people, and pretend that you're being other people. Essentially, everybody's gonna get punished, no matter what you're trying to do there. So no, I don't think it can be called defamation. Coming back to what you said there, because essentially in order for it to be defamation, there has to be some like untrue statement that was uttered about you, which is essentially not true, right? So that's not exactly the situation. I think in the UK it would be like the law, like passing off concept, right? So you are trying to pretend someone else, and in the US we have the right of publicity. obviously that's going to be kind of somebody's using my name and likeness and getting money and using it for example, commercial purposes, right? So, and is making money off of my name. So that's kind of the route you can take, apart from the IP implications that
Yeah,
I listed mentioned.
and copyright violations. Yeah, I mean, I have my music, whoever owns the rights, and if you're building on top of that, if you're creating a derivative work, I mean, there are certain, do you have a license for that, right? So did I grant you the license to do that, or if it was a fair use? But I don't think that particular scenario was a fair use under the copyright doctrine. So, yeah, well,
It's a mess. It's interesting though, and I think this leads me to the question. So we have probably 10 minutes to
yeah
to wrap it up. Things. So if there's any questions from the audience, no matter how big or small or how silly you might think they are, please ask me about the technical side. Like, more than happy to take that, and between the three of us, I'm sure we can answer anything on this topic. But one thing that's like burning on my mind as we speak is, who do I call if I get deep faked? This is kind of absent. I'm thinking about it now, and I'm like, Bad Bunny was very angry about this. He wrote a lot of angry tweets. But really, so it's probably falling into the laps of, he has like a huge law team. I'm sure he's got lawyers, and they might be able to fight something. But as we have discussed, it's very difficult to ask of people in the law profession to also clue up on all these technical, crazy, complex AI algorithms. And then there's the FCC. And then there's kind of just everyday people in the middle. And I wouldn't even know what to do if I experienced a voice clone, and that's from someone who works in it every day. So do you guys have any thoughts?
You call 911. I'm joking.
No, I'm just, that's a really good question, Sarah. And yeah, because our motto is like AI in real life scenario. So what are you going to do? I mean, I don't think there is like a protocol for this yet. I know that some just regular people are trying, who have been deepfaked. I mean, they're going through this excruciating process of, getting back their good name and reputation. But I would probably just start with, police report.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
and then just go from there, because I think that police officers, although maybe in maybe larger cities, and I'm just like thinking out loud, I think they might be aware of some cybercrime divisions or something like that.
They
might
do
be
have
aware.
that.
I mean, they are aware of all these legal issues that are happening, and it's probably, I mean, I don't know how many reports they're getting, but they're probably seeing stuff like that going on. So I would start there. And yeah, and then they'll probably be able to somehow point you to the right direction to, like, maybe, I don't know, who will have a jurisdiction over this, city attorney or somebody else. So it's like, yeah.
That's what you do, kind of. It's sort of a parallel, but in the case of stolen identity, right? If somebody's using credit cards that have been buying houses left and right, and you're like, okay, this is not me and not my house. And yeah, you're filing a police report, and they're kind of transferring you to this special unit. So that might be the role. But I would still, like, if I'm not Bad Bunny, right? I have zero recognition. I would pretty much start alerting everyone I could to get that recognition. That would be my second parallel route. I would just, I don't know, send out a newsletter blast to everyone, or be on all social media platforms. I'll be out there, so look at me. I have this done to me. For example, there was a deepfake video of someone, right, and they lost their job or something. Something happened, or they in their relationship, or they just, I don't know, just something very bad happened. As we already kind of unfortunately know by this time, if there's no media hype, if people are not talking about it, it's kind of, you're just out there by yourself in the dark with your deepfake video, and now what, right? So I would, if it was me, I would not stay in the dark. I would definitely just be out there talking about it and trying to attract attention of anyone wanting to kind of take up my case or work with me on that. Let's just do something about it. And I'll try to, if there's no one else kind of trying to help me, I'll definitely try to track the source of that, whatever means available to me. So
yeah, and again, yet again, harm that was created very quickly is then left with the victim to deal with probably years of outfall. I think this is fundamentally the problem with AI right now, is that we just see how it enables bad people to do bad things a lot quicker. And the cleanup is still going to take us months, years. There's no streamlined process for what to do if you're a victim of this, and that's really sad.
Yeah. And yeah, as we're wrapping up, I just wanted to like quickly throw out there just a list of AI detectors that are actually out there right now. So obviously the big guys, OpenAI and Meta and Google DeepMind is a Google's thing. So they have their own AI detectors, and these are specific to their platforms. And Elena and I were talking yesterday, and Elena, you brought a really interesting kind of a aspect to this, is that there is like compatibility and interoperability thing, that every AI detector on that particular platform works with that platform.
Designed kind of
designed to work with that particular platform. So I guess it's I mean, there's a reason behind that, but we just wanted to quickly highlight that. And yeah, and basically there's other stuff on the market as well. It's just a list of things that are available to people, to all kinds of AI detection stuff, and that's mostly with text based content, like plagiarism scanning tool, or you're writing something and that would help you detect the AI generated content and will help you rewrite it, so you don't have those chunks of AI generated stuff in your writing, right? So yeah, and so yes, there are things out there. There's copy leaks. I think that's also kind of a famous, more kind of known thing, where it works for academic and educational purposes. And this is a whole other, I think, talk about students and educational system and using all of this stuff for or against educational purposes, right? So as we know, plagiarism is a big no-no when you're in academic setting. But again, so this is just like a quick, I guess, look at all of this stuff. Yeah, and yeah, I guess we just have kind of two more minutes, and yeah, I just wanted to pop up my my favorite one. So this is, yeah, I guess this is just a depiction of how it feels
Just put my glasses
on a weekly basis when you're thinking about the agenda for the next talk, and it's just things are coming at you. There's just so much stuff that's happening every single day. OpenAI got sued again, or other things. So it's sort of like a dodging bullet kind of scenario that yeah, that I that's just a depiction of how fast things are moving, and you're just trying to kind of wrap your mind around all those issues that are happening. So yeah, and yeah, Sarah, thank you so much for joining us today. It's really interesting, because I think that you're our first engineer and a scientist that we had in our talk, and just kind of who would actually walk us through the technical aspect of things, because we're talking about legal issues, business issues, but this has been really great. I'm really glad I found you and you agreed. I know you were very busy and traveling to White House and everything. So yeah, thank you so much for joining us. It was really fun.
Thank you.
And this is going to be our next one, guys. But yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Sarah. I love the technical aspect of it. I wish we had more time and gone even deeper and lost all our listeners. But who cares? Because it's just too fascinating. And even just like I was telling it to a few people yesterday, like even as an attorney, to me, I think it's very important to be aware of how this technology works, essentially, the nuts and bolts is very important if you want to be kind of doing some meaningful things, not just only reading the headlines, you know. And I think it's kind of, those are my 2 cents in the end. So, okay, thank you so much. And we did the announcement, right, for our event next month.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so. I think so.
I think so.
Did you?
Okay, I'm sorry, what?
Did you? I was like, did you do that? I don't know. I don't remember.
Yeah, I kind of don't remember anything at this point. But yeah, thank you so much, Sarah. That was very informative, and I'm pretty sure people will get back to that talk and just kind of rewatch it. I know that I will, especially the technical parts, and the presentation was awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank
Bye,
you,
everyone.
everyone. Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we'll let you go.